Well, President Buhari has warned that Nigeria is at risk of famine perhaps as early as next year, owing to the huge global demand for the country's surplus grains. He's given directives for the purchase of grains for storage and the reduction of exports, and this is in order to prevent a crisis. Well, joining me now for discussion on this matter is Mr. Zanau Hassan, an agronomist. He joins us from our studios in Abuja. Welcome to the program. Now, despite being Africa's largest producer of grains, the government says Nigeria is at risk of famine as early as next year, and that is a lot of pressure. But do you think that this is the key reason behind this threat?
Chamberlain, if I can get you right, Nigeria is facing famine next year as announced by the Special Assistant to the President on Media. To just give a little background of what led to this, in 2015 when the government came in, they came in at the peak of the planting season. At that time, there was nothing much to be done, and so there was no input to the agricultural sector, especially to farmers who are the major producers of these grains. Then coming into 2016, there wasn't also any tangible effort to be able to assist in production of these grains in 2016. Now, the only thing that the government was able to do was the Anchor Borrowers Program, which was basically focused on rice in some selected states. Now, having 2 consecutive years of lack of input into the agricultural sectors will definitely lead into a food shortage crisis, which is famine, as being anticipated.
Well, Mr. Zanau, how do you think a reduction in our exportation of these grains will help the situation at the moment?
The major challenge we are facing is not related with export of these commodities. I give an example. Maize is the main food staple that we consume in this country. Maize is not just consumed by humans, it's also the major source of feed for animals. And so whether export is being banned for maize is immaterial. What we need to look at is that the internal demand for these commodities is high, and the supply in the market is not meeting the demand. And certainly it's going to continue to increase, because we know for almost more than 2 years, we have 2 regions, 2 states that have not been engaged in food production, which means that food from other parts of this country must be pushed to those areas to also be able to feed the population there.
What else do you think we should be considering?
A quick intervention to ensure that there is a massive irrigation to be able to make sure that even if we are going to face this food crisis, it's not going to push much further into next year, is to engage in massive irrigation cultivation, because if we do not do that, moving into 2017, first quarter, second quarter, you will imagine that if maize sells for 10,000 now, imagine what it will sell by March into June next year. So the best thing for government to do is to massively deploy all its resources, all its policies, and then ensure that states that have the capacity to go into massive production of these grains begin the process of engaging farmers and ensuring that these farmers have adequate inputs, whether it is seed, whether it is fertilizer, whether it is agrochemicals, are readily available for massive grain production.
Mr. Zanau Hassan, thank you for joining us today on Africa 54.